The marketplace of Station Meridian 7 buzzed with 1,000 different sounds. Jiho moved through the crowd with careful steps, his wooden staff tapping against the metal floor. Each tap sent vibrations up through the worn wood and into his hands. He could feel the world around him through those tiny tremors. A heavy footstep to his left meant a Thorian merchant carrying cargo. Light quick clicks meant Vaxorians passing by. The hum of the station's engines told him he was near the eastern corridor. Jiho was 12 years old and completely blind. He had been born this way, entering the world without ever seeing light or color or faces. But he had learned to see in other ways. The staff in his hands was his eyes, his guide, his connection to everything around him. The staff was special for another reason too. Carved into the smooth wood was his mother's name, Hia Jin. She had died 5 years ago, and this staff was all he had left of her. His father had made it, engraving the name with shaking hands just months before he died too. Now Jiho was alone, living in the station's orphan quarters, surviving on charity and odd jobs. He made his way toward the lower maintenance corridors where fewer people traveled. It was quieter there, easier to navigate. The crowds made him nervous. Too many sounds, too many vibrations competing for his attention. He just wanted to reach the small storage room where he slept, eat his small meal and rest. But 3 sets of footsteps fell in behind him. Jiho's heart sank. He recognized those clicking sounds. Vaxorians. And from the pattern of their steps, they were young ones. Teenagers, probably. That meant trouble. "Look what we have here," a voice chittered in Galactic Common. The little blind human all alone. Jiho kept walking, gripping his staff tighter. Maybe if he ignored them, they would get bored and leave. "I'm talking to you, human." The voice grew louder, angrier. A hand grabbed Jiho's shoulder and spun him around. He stumbled, nearly falling, catching himself with his staff. "Please," Jiho said quietly. "I don't want any trouble. Just let me pass." Laughter erupted from the 3 Vaxorians. Their leader, a tall one named Crixath, stepped closer. Jiho could hear the scraping of his carapace plates, smell the chemical scent that all Vaxorians carried. "You don't want trouble?" Crixath mocked. "Too bad. We're bored and your entertainment." One of the others spoke up. "Humans are so weak. Look at him. Can't even see. How does his species survive?" "They don't," Crixath said. "That's why there are so few of them left. Pathetic creatures." Jiho's hands trembled on his staff. He wanted to run, but he didn't know this corridor well enough. Without his staff, he would be completely helpless. "What's this?" Crixath grabbed at the staff, but Jiho held on tight. "Please don't," Jiho begged. "It's all I have. It was my mother's." "Your mother?" Crixath laughed. "Where is she now? Did she abandon you because you're useless?" Tears burned in Jiho's eyes. "She's dead. She died protecting others." "Protecting others?" The 3rd Vaxorian joined in the laughter. "Humans don't protect anyone. They hide and cry and beg for mercy." Crixath yanked hard on the staff. Jiho refused to let go, and they struggled for a moment. Then the other 2 Vaxorians grabbed Jiho's arms, pulling them away from the wood. "No," Jiho cried out. "Please, no." Crixath held the staff horizontally in his 2 main claws. He looked at Jiho's face, seeing the tears streaming down, seeing the terror in those unseeing eyes. And he smiled. "Weak," Crixath said. Then he brought the staff down hard against his knee. The crack echoed through the corridor like a gunshot. The wood split in 2, the pieces falling to the floor with a clatter that seemed impossibly loud in Jiho's ears. The Vaxorians released him, and Jiho dropped to his knees. His hands scrambled across the cold metal floor, finding the broken pieces of his staff. He pulled them to his chest, feeling the jagged break, feeling where his mother's name had been torn in half. "Much better," Crixath said. "Now you look like what you are, broken, useless, human." The 3 bullies walked away, their laughter fading down the corridor. Jiho sat there on the floor, holding the broken pieces of wood, and sobbed. He was alone in the dark corridor, completely vulnerable without his staff. He couldn't navigate. He couldn't find his way back. He was trapped by his own blindness and his fear. His fingers traced the engraving on the broken wood, finding the letters of his mother's name split across 2 pieces. He remembered so little about her. Just vague impressions of warmth, of a gentle voice singing to him, of hands that held him safe. She had died doing something brave, his father had told him. She had saved someone important. But what good did that do Jiho now? She was gone, his father was gone, and now even the last piece of them was destroyed. Time passed. Jiho didn't know how much. He sat against the cold wall, tears drying on his cheeks, holding the broken staff. Other footsteps passed by occasionally, but no one stopped. No one helped. That was life on Station Meridian 7 for orphans and outcasts. You survived alone, or you didn't survive at all. He tried to stand once, thinking he could feel his way along the wall back to familiar territory. But without the staff's vibrations, the world was too uncertain. Every sound was meaningless. Every surface felt the same. He sat back down, defeated. Maybe he would just stay here. Maybe someone from the orphan quarters would come looking for him eventually. Or maybe they wouldn't. Maybe this was how his story ended, alone in a dark corridor, just like his parents. Weak, useless, human. The words echoed in his mind, mixing with the sound of wood breaking, with the laughter of the bullies, with the memory of his mother's name splitting in two. Jiho closed his eyes, not that it made any difference, and wished for something he couldn't name. Help, hope, a reason to keep going. He didn't know that 20 minutes later, everything would change. He didn't know that heavy footsteps were already approaching, guided by purpose and honor. He didn't know that the broken staff in his hands was about to become a bridge between his past and an unimaginable future. All he knew was darkness, loneliness, and the weight of broken wood in his trembling hands. 20 minutes passed like hours in the darkness. Jiho remained on the floor, his back against the cold wall. The broken pieces of his staff clutched to his chest. His tears had stopped, but the hollow ache in his heart remained. He tried to think of what to do next, but his mind felt as broken as the wood in his hands. Then he heard footsteps. These were different from any he had heard before. Heavy, yes, but measured. Each step deliberate and controlled, despite the obvious weight behind them. The vibrations traveled through the floor and up through Jiho's body. Whatever was approaching was massive, but it moved with surprising care. Jiho tensed, pressing himself harder against the wall. Most species ignored humans as beneath notice, but some found them amusing to torment, as he had just learned. Something this big could crush him without effort if it wanted to. The footsteps stopped a few meters away. Jiho heard breathing, deep and slow, like wind moving through a cavern. A presence filled the corridor, not threatening exactly, but overwhelming. He felt small, vulnerable, exposed. Then a voice spoke, deep and resonant. But the words were not in Galactic Common. They were in Korean, perfect, clear Korean. "Young one, are you hurt?" Jiho's breath caught in his throat. Korean. His mother's language, his father's language, his language. Almost no one spoke it anymore. Earth's colonies were scattered and dying. Most humans spoke Common now, abandoning their old tongues for survival. To hear Korean here in this corridor from this stranger seemed impossible. Jiho's voice cracked. He tried again. "I'm not hurt. Not in body, but in spirit," the voice said. It wasn't a question. "I see broken wood in your hands, and I see tears on your face." Jiho felt his cheeks flush with shame. He tried to wipe his face, but more tears came. "They broke my staff. It was my mother's. It had her name on it." Massive footsteps approached closer, and Jiho heard the sound of something large settling down onto the floor. The stranger had crouched or knelt to be nearer to Jiho's level. Even sitting, the presence felt enormous. "May I see the pieces?" the voice asked gently. "I will not touch them without your permission." Jiho hesitated, then held out the two broken halves of the staff. He heard a soft sound like armored plates shifting. "The engraving is beautiful," the stranger said. "Heejin, a lovely name. Was she your mother?" "Yes," Jiho whispered. "She died 5 years ago." "Tell me about her," the voice said. Not a command, but an invitation. "If you wish to speak of her, I will listen." Something about the voice, about the gentle respect in it, made Jiho want to talk. He had not spoken about his mother in years. The other orphans didn't care, and the station workers were too busy. But this stranger, whoever they were, seemed genuinely interested. "I don't remember much," Jiho admitted. "I was only 7 when she died. She worked security on the station. My father said she was brave. He said she saved someone important during a pirate attack. She put herself between an ambassador and a weapon. She died, but the ambassador lived." The stranger went completely still. Even the breathing stopped for a moment. Then slowly, carefully, the voice spoke again. "Your mother's full name. Do you know it?" "Hyejin Park," Jiho said. Service ID H7721 Earth Meridian. Why do you ask? Another long pause. When the stranger spoke again, the voice was different, deeper, filled with something Jiho couldn't quite identify. Reverence, maybe. Or awe. Hijin of Earth, the guardian of Ambassador Koreth. We remember. Jiho's hands tightened on the broken staff. You knew her. You know about her? I did not know her personally, the stranger said. But every member of my people knows her name. She saved our leader, our most honored statesman. Ambassador Koreth brought our clans together after centuries of war. Without him, we would still be fighting among ourselves. Your mother ensured he lived. She gave her life so he could continue his work. Jiho felt dizzy. His father had told him his mother saved someone important, but he never knew who. Never knew it was someone so significant. What are you? Jiho asked, then caught himself. I'm sorry, that was rude. I can't see, and I don't recognize your voice or your footsteps. No offense taken, young one. The voice rumbled with what might have been amusement. I am Davik of the Chromath people. We are warriors and merchants scattered across many worlds. We are known for our strength and our honor code. Jiho had heard of the Chromaths. Everyone had. They were legends, nightmares, the fiercest fighters in the galaxy. Massive armored beings with forearms who served as mercenaries and bodyguards for those who could afford them. And one was here in this corridor speaking Korean to a blind orphan. Why do you speak my language? Jiho asked. When your mother saved Ambassador Koreth, we sought to honor her. We learned everything we could about her. Her history, her culture, her language. It seemed right to understand the person who gave us our greatest gift. When Koreth returned home, he ordered all Chromaths to study human culture, especially Korean culture, so we would never forget. Jiho's heart pounded. My mother did that? She made an entire species learn about Korea? She did more than that, Davik said. She changed how we see humans. Before her sacrifice, we thought humans were weak, emotional, too soft for the harsh reality of the galaxy. But your mother stood against a fusion rifle to protect someone she barely knew. She did not hesitate. She did not run. She chose duty and honor over life itself. That is the Chromath way. She taught us that humans could be warriors too. Tears flowed freely down Jiho's face now, but they were different tears, not tears of loss and shame, but tears of pride and grief mixed together. We have searched for her family for 5 years, Davik continued. We wanted to honor her bloodline, to repay the debt we owe. But human records are scattered. So many colonies failed, so many families separated. We never knew she had a son. We never knew about you. My father died 2 years after her, Jiho said. Heart failure, the doctor said. But I think it was grief. He loved her so much. And now you are alone, Davik said softly. Blind, orphaned, with only a broken staff to remember them by. Yes, Jiho whispered. No, Davik said, his voice firm. You are not alone. Not anymore. You are the son of Hijin, the guardian who saved Ambassador Koreth. That makes you family. That makes you ours. Jiho didn't understand. What do you mean? Wait here, Davik said. I must retrieve something. I will return in moments. You have my word as a Chromath warrior. The massive presence stood and footsteps moved away quickly. Jiho sat in confused silence, clutching the broken staff, trying to process everything he had just heard. His mother was famous among the Chromaths. They had searched for her family. They considered him family now. It seemed too impossible to be real, but the footsteps returned just as promised. Davik settled down again, and Jiho heard the sound of containers opening. I carry materials for my trade, Davik said, but also materials for honor work. Give me time, young Jiho. I'm going to make you something. And while I work, I will tell you stories of your mother that you have never heard. What are you making? Jiho asked. You will see, Davik said, then corrected himself. You will feel. Trust me. And as strange sounds of work began, metal on metal, heat and shaping and crafting, Davik's deep voice began to speak, telling tales of a human woman named Hyejin who became a legend. The sounds of crafting filled the corridor. Metal scraped against metal, creating a rhythm that resonated through the floor and into Jiho's bones. He heard the hiss of heat being applied, the tap of precise hammering, the whisper of tools moving with practiced skill. Forearms working together, Davik had said. Jiho tried to imagine it but couldn't quite picture the coordination required. While Davik worked, he spoke. His deep voice wove stories that Jiho had never heard, details that no official report had ever contained. The pirate attack came without warning. Davik began. Ambassador Korath was attending a trade summit here on Station Meridian 7. Security was supposed to be tight, but the pirates had inside help. They breached the eastern docking bay with military-grade weapons. Their plan was to take hostages, important ones, and ransom them for technology and credits. Jiho listened, holding the broken staff loosely now, his attention fixed on every word. Your mother was assigned to the ambassador's detail, a routine assignment or so everyone thought. She was the only human on a security team of 8. The others were Thorians, species known for their physical strength. But when the pirates broke through, when the fusion rifles started firing, the Thorians fell back. Standard protocol when outgunned: retreat, regroup, call for reinforcements. The hammering sound paused, then resumed with a different rhythm. Your mother did not fall back. She saw Ambassador Korath frozen in the crossfire. He is a thinker, young Jiho, not a fighter, brilliant with words and diplomacy, but helpless against violence. A pirate raised a fusion rifle, the kind that can vaporize an armored vehicle. He pointed it at the ambassador. Jiho's hands clenched. He knew how this story ended, but hearing it told this way made it feel immediate, real, terrifying. Hijin moved faster than anyone thought possible. She crossed 15 meters in seconds and put herself between the rifle and the ambassador. The pirate fired. Your mother had no shield, no armor, nothing but her body and her choice. She took the blast that was meant for Korath. Tears rolled down Jiho's cheeks again, but he stayed silent, letting Davik continue. The ambassador survived without a scratch. Your mother died instantly without pain. Her last words as she pushed Korath behind cover were these: protect those who cannot protect themselves. Not a request, a command, an order to everyone who heard her. The crafting sounds changed again. Jiho heard what might have been engraving, precise and careful. The pirates were captured. The station was secured. But Ambassador Korath knelt beside your mother's body and wept. I was not there, but I have spoken with him many times since. He said he felt ashamed. Here was this small human, barely reaching his shoulder, who valued his life more than she valued her own. And he, a great leader, had frozen like a child. She taught him something that day about true courage. What did she teach him? Jiho asked softly. That courage is not about being fearless. It's about choosing action despite fear. Your mother was afraid. Her hands were shaking when she moved. But she moved anyway. That is the highest form of bravery. Jiho thought about that. He thought about his own fear in the corridor earlier. His paralysis when the bullies attacked. Would his mother be disappointed in him? Your mother would be proud of you, Davik said as if reading his thoughts. Surviving as a blind orphan on this station requires courage of its own. Do not doubt that. The work continued for a long time. Jiho heard layering sounds like multiple pieces being joined together. He heard the hiss of coolant, the scrape of final polishing. Throughout it all, Davik told more stories. How the Chromath people held a ceremony for Hyejin that lasted 3 days. How her name was entered into the Book of Honor, reserved for Chromath heroes and those they deemed worthy. How young Chromath warriors studied her actions in their training. She became a teaching example, Davik explained. When our youth are tempted to value personal glory over duty, instructors tell them about Hyejin of Earth. When they ask why honor matters more than survival, they hear her last words. Your mother shaped an entire generation of Chromath warriors. I wish I could have known her better, Jiho whispered. I only remember small things. Her singing voice, the way she smelled like flowers, how safe I felt when she held me. Those memories are precious, Davik said. Hold them close, but know that you have thousands more memories now. Every Chromath who remembers her, who learned from her example, carries a piece of her legacy. And now I will give you something to carry as well. The work sound stopped. Jiho heard Davik stand, heard footsteps approaching. Then something was placed gently in his hands. It was a staff. Jiho's fingers explored it immediately, desperate to understand. The material was cool, smooth, but somehow alive under his touch. Metal, definitely, but unlike any metal he had felt before. It was perfectly balanced, exactly the right length for his height. As he gripped it, he felt vibrations traveling through it from the floor, amplified and clarified in a way his old wooden staff never managed. What is this? Jiho breathed. Chromath war steel, Davik said. The strongest material my people produce. We use it for weapons that must last centuries. For armor that protects our greatest leaders. It is never given to outsiders. Never. The penalty for gifting it to non-Chromaths is exile. But you are not an outsider, Jiho. You are the son of Heejin. You are ours. Jiho's hands trembled as he held the staff. It was warm now, responding to his touch. The vibrations it carried were incredible. He could sense Davik's massive form standing before him in perfect detail. He could feel the walls of the corridor, the texture of the floor, even the hum of air moving through ventilation shafts. It was like being given sight of a different kind. The core is tuned to station frequencies, Davik explained. It will amplify vibrations tenfold, letting you sense your environment more clearly than most species see with eyes. The staff is nearly indestructible. It will not break, bend, or fail you. On this you have my word and the word of every Chromath craftsman. I don't know what to say, Jiho whispered. Feel the engravings, Davik said. Jiho's fingers found them, raised letters spiraling down the length of the staff. 3 different scripts, he realized. He recognized the Korean characters by touch. Lessons his father had taught him. He traced them slowly. Hyejin's legacy, carried by Jiho. Guardian's blood. The same words are written in English and Chromath script, Davik said. Anyone who scans this staff will know whose son you are. They will know you carry the blood of a guardian. They will know you are protected by honor and debt. Jiho stood slowly, using the new staff for balance. It felt perfect, like an extension of his own body. The world around him came alive with new clarity. He could sense distances, textures, even the subtle movements of Davik's breathing. Thank you, Jiho said, but the words felt inadequate. Thank you so much. The thanks belong to your mother, Davik replied. I am simply repaying a debt. But Jiho, there is more. The staff is only part of what I give you today. Jiho heard the sound of something heavy being lifted, then felt Davik's massive hands place something around his neck. A medallion warm and solid settled against his chest. It pulsed with a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. What is this? Jiho asked, touching the metal disc. A clan medallion, Davik said, and his voice was solemn now, formal. It marks you as Chromathkin. Any scanner that reads it will identify you as family, protected by our laws and our honor. Any threat to you becomes a threat to every Chromath warrior across the galaxy. Jiho's breath caught. But I'm not Chromath. I'm human. You are both, Davik said, and that makes you special. Now hold your staff firmly. Stand tall. I have 3 words to tell you. 3 words that will change everything. Jiho straightened, gripping the staff, feeling its strength flow into him. He waited, his heart pounding. Davik's voice filled the corridor, powerful and absolute. You are Chromath. The 3 words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning that Jiho struggled to understand. You are Chromath. Simple words, but they carried weight that seemed to press down on his shoulders like physical force. I don't understand, Jiho said quietly. How can I be Chromath? I'm just a human boy. I'm blind, I'm weak, I'm nobody. You are wrong on all counts, Davik said firmly. Sit. Let me explain what those 3 words mean. Jiho settled back against the wall, his new staff held loosely in his hands, the medallion warm against his chest. He heard Davik lower himself to the floor again, close enough that Jiho could feel the heat radiating from his massive body. Among my people, Davik began, blood relation is not the only path to family. We have a concept called clan adoption. When someone performs an act of such honor, such selfless courage that it saves Chromath lives, they can be adopted into our clans. It is rare. In 500 years, it has happened only 12 times. Your mother earned that honor through her sacrifice, but she's dead, Jiho said. Yes, but her legacy lives on. In Chromath law, the children of adopted clan members inherit that status. You are Hyejin's son, therefore you are Chromath. Not by blood, but by honor, and among my people, honor runs deeper than blood ever could. Jiho's fingers traced the engraving on his staff, feeling his mother's name under his touch. What does that mean for me? Practically, it means you have thousands of brothers and sisters across the galaxy, Davik said. Warriors, merchants, craftsmen, scholars, all Chromath, all bound by honor to protect and support clan kin. You wear the medallion now. Any Chromath who sees it, who scans it, will know you are family. They will feed you if you are hungry, shelter you if you need rest, defend you if you are threatened. That seems impossible, Jiho whispered. It is our way, Davik said simply. But there is more. The life debt your mother created extends to you now. Ambassador Korath himself declared it when he learned of your existence. You saved his life through your mother's sacrifice. That debt can never be fully repaid, but it gives you certain rights and protections. What kind of protections? Davik's voice grew serious. Any harm done to you is considered harm done to the ambassador himself. Any threat against you becomes a matter of clan honor for every Chromath. The bullies who broke your staff today committed an act of war against my people, though they do not yet know it. Jiho's hands tightened on the staff. War? No, I don't want that. They were just being mean. They didn't know. Exactly, Davik said, and Jiho heard approval in his voice. You think first of peace, not revenge. That is very human. That is very Heejin. This is why I have not already reported the incident to clan leaders. I wanted to speak with you first to understand your wishes. The choice of how to respond is yours to make. The weight of that responsibility settled on Jiho. He thought about Kriksath and his friends, about their casual cruelty, about the sound of wood breaking. He remembered the laughter, the mocking words. Weak, useless, human. But he also remembered his mother's last words, as Davik had told them. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Not punish those who hurt you. Not destroy your enemies, protect. I don't want them hurt, Jiho said slowly. I want them to understand what they did was wrong. I want them to be better. But I don't want revenge. That answer pleases me greatly, Davik said. You have your mother's wisdom. But Jiho, you must understand something important. You are Chromath now, yes, but you are also human. You bring both perspectives to our people. We are warriors, strong and fierce, but sometimes we forget mercy. Humans understand mercy in ways we struggle to grasp. I thought Chromaths looked down on mercy, Jiho said. I've heard stories that your people see it as weakness. We did once, Davik admitted. But your mother changed that too. After her death, Ambassador Korath gave a speech to the gathered clans. He said that true strength is not in what you can destroy, but in what you choose to protect. He said humans possess a kind of courage that we Chromaths lack, the courage to be vulnerable, to care deeply, to sacrifice without expectation of glory or honor. Davik paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. He said that humans fight for love, not for victory. And love, he told us, is the most powerful force in the universe. We laughed at first. We Chromaths do not speak easily of love. But then he showed us recordings of the attack. We saw your mother's face when she moved to protect him. There was no hate for the pirate, no battle rage, no thirst for glory. There was only determination born from love. Love for duty, love for life, love for protecting the innocent. Jiho felt tears welling up again. He seemed to cry so much these days, but Davik never mocked him for it. We were humbled, Davik continued. Here was this small human who embodied everything we claimed to value, but expressed it through an emotion we had dismissed as weakness. Ambassador Korath told us that if we truly wanted to become better warriors, we needed to understand why humans fight. We needed to learn that love does not weaken resolve. It strengthens it beyond anything we could imagine. Is that why you learned Korean? Jiho asked. To understand love? To understand your mother, Davik said. To understand the culture that produced such a warrior. We learned Korean, yes, but also human history, human philosophy, human art. We studied Earth's ancient warriors, samurai, knights, soldiers who fought for ideals beyond personal glory. We discovered that humans have always been warriors, but warriors of a different kind than us. Jiho sat quietly, absorbing all of this. It was too much to process all at once. His mother, who he barely remembered, had changed an entire species' worldview. And now he carried that legacy, represented it, embodied it somehow. I'm afraid, Jiho admitted. I don't know how to be what you're describing. I'm just a scared kid who couldn't even defend his own staff. Fear is not weakness, Davik said. Your mother was afraid when she faced that fusion rifle. Her hands shook. Her heart raced. But she moved anyway. That is what makes her action so powerful. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. I ran away from the bullies, Jiho said quietly. I begged them to stop. I cried. You survived, Davik countered. You held on to your mother's staff as long as you could. You endured pain and humiliation without giving up your humanity. Do you know what a Chromath youth would have done in that situation? Fought back? And likely died, Davik said. 3 against 1, all older and stronger. A Chromath youth would have chosen glorious death over perceived dishonor. But you chose survival. You chose to live, to continue, to carry on despite the hurt. That takes a different kind of strength. One that my people are only beginning to understand. Jiho touched the medallion at his chest, feeling its steady pulse. You really think I'm strong? I know you are, Davik said. You have survived 12 years as a blind orphan on a rough station. You learned to navigate the world without sight. You kept going after losing both parents. You maintained hope when most would have given up. Yes, Jiho, you are strong. You are worthy of the name you carry. You are Chromath, those 3 words again. But this time Jiho felt something shift inside him. Not understanding fully, not yet, but acceptance. He was Chromath, not by blood but by honor, not by strength but by legacy, not by war but by love. What do I do now? Jiho asked. Now, Davik said, standing up with a rustle of armor plates. You stand. You take your new staff, wear your medallion, and walk back into the world. You are not alone anymore. You are never alone again. And tomorrow we will see what happens when those bullies learn what they really broke today. Davik extended a massive hand to help Jiho stand. Jiho took it, feeling the rough texture of Chromath's skin, feeling the strength that could crush him but held him gently instead. He stood staff in hand, medallion at his chest, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt like he belonged to something bigger than his own small, lonely life. You are Chromath, Davik said one more time. Remember that always. And Jiho, standing tall in the corridor where his old life had ended and his new life had begun, finally believed it. Morning came to Station Meridian 7 with the artificial lighting shift that marked day cycles. Jiho woke in his small bunk at the orphan quarters, and for a moment thought yesterday had been a dream. Then his hand touched the staff leaning against the wall beside him, felt the cool smoothness of Chromath war steel, and knew it was all real. He dressed quickly, pulling on his worn clothes that were too small but all he had. The medallion hung around his neck, hidden under his shirt but present, its gentle pulse reminding him he was different now. Changed. Protected. Davik had walked him back to the orphan quarters last night, a silent guardian whose presence cleared the corridors of anyone who might cause trouble. The Chromath warrior had promised to return today, to help Jiho begin understanding his new status. But first, Jiho needed to test his new staff, to learn its capabilities. He stepped out into the corridor and immediately noticed the difference. The vibrations traveling through the war steel were incredibly clear. He could sense the texture of the walls, the distance to corners, even the subtle differences in floor plating where different sections joined. It was like the world had gained resolution, like everything had come into focus. He made his way toward the marketplace, moving with confidence he had never felt before. The staff tapped against the floor, each touch sending back detailed information about his surroundings. He navigated around obstacles before reaching them, sensed people approaching from side corridors, felt the flow of foot traffic like currents in water. Other station residents noticed him too. A human boy with a staff that gleamed with obvious quality, moving with unexpected grace. Some stared, some whispered. Jiho ignored them, focused on learning the capabilities of his new tool. He bought a small meal from a Thorian vendor who took his credits without comment. He found a bench in the main marketplace and ate slowly, listening to the sounds around him, feeling the vibrations of thousands of lives intersecting in this commercial hub. Somewhere out there were Crixath and his friends, the 3 Vaxorians who had broken his old staff. Jiho did not seek them out, but he did not hide either. It took less than an hour for them to find him. Jiho sensed their approach before he heard them. 3 sets of clicking footsteps, moving with the aggressive confidence of bullies who expected no resistance. They stopped a few meters away, probably surprised to see him out in public after yesterday's humiliation. Look who it is, Crixath's voice called out. The blind human with a new toy. Did you beg someone to make that for you? Jiho set down his food and stood slowly, gripping the staff. He turned to face them, his unseeing eyes directed toward where he sensed Crixath standing. Around them, a crowd began to gather. Station residents loved drama, conflict, anything to break the monotony of daily life. I did not beg, Jiho said calmly. It was given as a gift. A gift? One of the other Vaxorians laughed. What kind of fool gives expensive materials to a useless human? The kind who values honor over cruelty, Jiho replied. Crixath moved closer, his carapace clicking with agitation. Big words for someone who cried on the floor yesterday. Are you going to cry again? Should we break this staff too? The crowd murmured. Some laughed. A few looked uncomfortable. Jiho stood his ground, staff planted firmly on the floor, feeling the vibrations of everything around him. You can try. Jiho said quietly. But I should warn you, this staff is not like the last one, and breaking it would have consequences you cannot imagine. Consequences? Crixath mocked. What are you going to do? You're blind and alone. We're stronger, faster, and there are 3 of us. You have nothing. I have family, Jiho said. That brought more laughter from the bullies in the crowd. A blind orphan claiming family. It seemed absurd. Crixath reached for the staff. Let's see how tough your new toy really is. Touch it, Jiho said, his voice carrying clearly through the marketplace. And you declare war on the Chromath Confederation. The words fell like stones into water, creating ripples of silence that spread through the crowd. The laughter died. Crixath's hand stopped centimeters from the staff. What did you say? Crixath asked. You heard me, Jiho said. This staff is made of Chromath war steel. It was crafted by a Chromath warrior as payment of a life debt. I wear a clan medallion marking me as Chromath kin. Any harm done to me or my possessions is harm done to them. Do you understand what that means? One of the other Vaxorians, smarter than Crixath, pulled out a scanner. He's lying. Let me prove it. He pointed the device at Jiho and activated it. The scanner's alert shrieked through the marketplace, loud enough to make people jump. Red lights flashed on its display. The Vaxorian stared at the readout, his clicking sounds becoming rapid with panic. What does it say? Crixath demanded. It says, the Vaxorian's voice trembled. It says Chromath clankin detected. Guardian bloodline, life debt priority alpha. It says any threat to this individual requires immediate diplomatic response from the Chromath Confederation. It says you made a mistake yesterday, a deep voice interrupted. The crowd parted as Davik strode into the marketplace, his massive form drawing gasps and whispers. A grave mistake. The 3 Vaxorian bullies scrambled backward, their carapaces clicking in fear. Everyone in the galaxy knew what Chromaths looked like, and seeing one approach with clear intent was terrifying. Davik stopped beside Jiho, one massive hand resting gently on the boy's shoulder. This is Jiho, son of Hijin, guardian of Ambassador Korith. He is my clan brother. He wears our colors and carries our steel. Yesterday you broke his staff and left him helpless in a corridor. You mocked him for his humanity. You called him weak and useless. Crixath looked like he might faint. The crowd had gone completely silent, watching this confrontation with wide eyes. By Chromath law, Davik continued, your actions constitute an attack on our clan. The penalty for such an attack is severe. Diplomatic sanctions against your species, personal consequences for your families, possibly even blood debt that would follow you for generations. We didn't know. Crixath's voice came out as a terrified squeak. We thought he was just an orphan. We didn't know he was protected. Ignorance is not an excuse for cruelty, Davik said. But there is hope for you yet. My clan brother Jiho must decide your fate. He carries the right of judgment in this matter. All eyes turned to Jiho. The blind human boy who yesterday had been helpless and humiliated now held the power to destroy 3 lives with a word. The crowd waited, curious what mercy or vengeance he would choose. Jiho stood silent for a long moment, his staff planted firmly, his face calm. He thought about his mother's last words. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. He thought about what Davik had taught him. That courage is acting despite fear. That strength is choosing what to defend, not what to destroy. I will not call for punishment, Jiho said finally, his voice clear and steady. You broke my staff and hurt my feelings, yes. But you are young and ignorant, not evil. You acted from a place of learned cruelty, not inherent malice. My mother died protecting others, not punishing them. I will honor her by offering you what she would have offered, a chance to be better. Crixath stared at him, confusion replacing fear. You're letting us go? Just like that? Not just like that, Jiho said firmly. I am giving you a choice. You can walk away now and never bother anyone weaker than you again. You can learn from this that cruelty has consequences and that mercy is not weakness. Or you can ignore this lesson, continue your ways, and eventually face someone who will not be as forgiving as me. The choice is yours. The 3 Vaxorians looked at each other, then back at Jiho. Slowly, Crixath bent his head in a gesture of submission that his species rarely showed. We will learn, Crixath said quietly. We will be better. Thank you. They turned and fled, their clicking footsteps fading into the station's background noise. The crowd began to disperse, whispering among themselves about what they had witnessed. Davik squeezed Jiho's shoulder gently. Your mother would be very proud, the Chromath warrior said. You were given power and chose wisdom. That is the hardest choice of all. Jiho smiled, feeling the weight of the moment settle into something lighter. I'm still learning. But I think I'm starting to understand what it means to be both human and Chromath. You are teaching us as much as we teach you, Davik said. Come, let us find breakfast. You used much energy standing up to those bullies, and growing boys need food. As they walked through the marketplace together, Jiho noticed something had changed. People moved out of their way respectfully. A few nodded to him. A human vendor called out a greeting. Word was already spreading through the station. The blind orphan was not helpless anymore. He was protected, honored, part of something greater. But more importantly, Jiho felt changed inside himself. Not because of the power he now carried, but because he had chosen not to use it for revenge. He had chosen his mother's path, protection over punishment, mercy over vengeance, hope over hate. He was Chromath, and he was human. And that combination, he was beginning to understand, made him stronger than either could alone. 3 months passed like water flowing through new channels, reshaping Jiho's life in ways he could never have imagined. Davik did not leave Station Meridian 7 as Jiho had expected. Instead, the massive Chromath warrior established temporary residence in a cargo bay converted to living quarters, declaring his intention to train the Guardian's son properly. If you are to carry the name Chromath, Davik had said that first week, then you must understand what that means. Not just the honor, but the responsibility. Not just the protection, but the discipline. The training began simply. Each morning before the station's artificial dawn, Jiho met Davik in an unused maintenance bay. The first lessons had nothing to do with fighting. Instead, Davik taught Jiho to truly listen to his new staff. The war steel speaks to those who know how to hear it, Davik explained, his voice echoing in the empty bay. Plant the staff. Feel the vibrations. Tell me what you sense. Jiho planted the staff and closed his eyes, a habit that served no purpose but brought him comfort. The vibrations flowed through the metal and into his hands. At first it was overwhelming. Too much information all at once. But gradually, with Davik's patient guidance, Jiho learned to filter the sensations to focus on specific details. 3 people in the corridor outside, Jiho said. 1 heavy, 2 light. The heavy one is carrying cargo. The 2 lighter ones are walking together talking. Good, Davik rumbled. What else? There's a ventilation shaft above us, moving air from east to west. The bay door is slightly misaligned, creating a gap of about 2 centimeters on the lower right corner. And Jiho paused, concentrating. There's someone else in the station moving differently. Heavy steps but irregular rhythm. Injured maybe? Or drunk? Excellent, Davik said with clear pride. You are learning to read the world through touch and vibration. This is how I experience reality even with working eyes. For you it will become even more refined because you have no visual distractions. As weeks passed, the lessons expanded. Davik taught Jiho how to use the staff as a weapon, though the Chromath was careful to emphasize defense over offense. The 4-armed warrior moved with surprising grace despite his size, demonstrating techniques that Jiho struggled to copy but gradually improved upon. Your species is smaller than most threats you will face, Davik explained during one session. But your mother proved that size does not determine courage or effectiveness. Use your mobility. Use your intelligence. Use the environment. A smart defender can defeat a stronger attacker. Jiho learned to read an opponent's movements through their footsteps, to anticipate attacks by sensing shifts in weight and balance. He learned to strike precisely at weak points rather than trying to overpower through strength. His blindness became an advantage when sparring because he could not be fooled by feints or visual tricks. But combat training was only part of the curriculum. Davik also taught Jiho about Chromath culture, history, and philosophy. They sat together in the evenings while Davik told stories of the clan wars, the unification under Ambassador Korath, the honor code that governed Chromath society. We were brutal once, Davik admitted. Our clans fought each other for centuries over resources, territory, pride. Tens of thousands died in conflicts that served no purpose beyond proving strength. Ambassador Korath changed that. He argued that true strength was not in conquering other Chromaths, but in standing united against external threats. That's when the pirates attacked? Jiho asked. Yes. Korath was meeting with clan leaders here on this very station, trying to convince them to join his unified confederation. Many were skeptical. They thought unity meant weakness, compromise, surrender of individual clan identity. Then the pirates attacked and your mother saved Korith's life. That changed everything. How? Davik was quiet for a moment. Because a human did what we could not. She put duty above personal survival, protecting someone she barely knew simply because it was right. Korith used her example in his next speech to the clans. He said if a human could show such honor, such courage, then surely Chromaths could set aside their pride for the greater good. Her death became the symbol of the unified confederation. Jiho touched his medallion, feeling its steady pulse. No pressure then. Davik's laughter rumbled like distant thunder. You handle the pressure better than most, young one. But speaking of pressure, there are others who wish to meet you. And meet them he did. Other Chromaths began arriving at Station Meridian 7, drawn by news that the Guardian Sun had been found. They came from merchant vessels, military ships, even distant colonies. Each one sought an audience with Jiho, bringing gifts and stories and respect. A female Chromath named Siora brought a set of tools engraved with his mother's name, explaining that she had served under Hyejin briefly and considered it an honor. A young Chromath warrior named Tavik, barely older than Jiho, came to thank him because his grandfather had been inspired by Hyejin's example to join the Confederation. An elderly craftsman named Vorek spent 3 days creating a special harness for Jiho's staff that would hold it securely when not in use, but allow instant access when needed. You are a bridge, Davik explained one evening, between human and Chromath, between past and future, between your mother's sacrifice and the legacy it created. These visitors come not just to honor her memory, but to understand what it means that you carry both heritages. Jiho's confidence grew with each passing week. He stood taller, spoke with more certainty, moved through the station with fluid grace that drew admiring looks. The staff was always with him, its vibrations guiding his path, its weight a comforting reminder of his new identity. But perhaps the most unexpected change came from Station Meridian 7's other residents. Word had spread about the confrontation with the Vaxorian bullies and Jiho's merciful response. People began approaching him for help, not for his Chromath connections, but for his judgment and wisdom. A Thorian merchant asked Jiho to mediate a dispute with a supplier. 2 human families fighting over shared living quarters sought his advice. Even station security occasionally consulted him about handling situations involving orphans or the vulnerable. Recognizing that he understood their perspective better than most, Jiho found himself becoming a community figure, someone people trusted to be fair and compassionate. He started spending time in the lower levels where the poorest residents lived, helping where he could, listening to problems, offering solutions. You are doing your mother's work, Davik observed one day, watching Jiho help a struggling family negotiate for better housing. She protected people with her body. You protect them with your voice and influence. Both are forms of guardianship. The most surprising development came 4 months after receiving his staff. Kriksath, the lead bully who had broken Jiho's original staff, approached him in the marketplace. The Vaxorian was alone, his clicking sounds uncertain and submissive. Can we talk? Kriksath asked quietly. They found a quiet corner, and Kriksath explained that he had been thinking constantly about Jiho's mercy. His family had been ashamed when they learned what he had done. His teachers had used him as a cautionary example. But worse than the shame was the understanding of how close he had come to causing diplomatic disaster. I could have destroyed my entire family, Kriksath said, his voice shaking. One moment of cruelty could have brought Chromath warriors down on all of us. But you didn't do that. You gave me a chance to change. Why? Jiho thought about his answer carefully. Because my mother taught me, through her actions, that protecting people means believing they can be better. You were cruel because you learned to be cruel, not because cruelty is your nature. If I had punished you harshly, you would have learned to hate, not to grow. I wanted you to have the chance my mother would have given you. Kriksath was silent for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised Jiho. I want to be better. I want to help others the way you do. Will you teach me? That conversation marked the beginning of an unlikely friendship. Kriksath became a regular presence at Jiho's side, learning by example how to help rather than hurt. Other young station residents joined them. Humans, Vaxorians, Thorians, even a young Chromath visitor who decided to extend his stay. They formed an informal group that helped with station problems too small for official attention, but too significant for those affected. Finding lost children, distributing donated food, mediating minor disputes, helping the elderly with tasks they could no longer manage alone. Nothing dramatic or heroic, but meaningful work that made life better for Station Meridian 7's forgotten residents. Davik watched these developments with visible pride. 6 months after the staff's creation, he announced that Jiho's basic training was complete. "You have learned what I came to teach," Davik said. "How to sense the world, how to defend yourself, how to carry the Chromath name with honor. But more importantly, you have learned what I could not teach. How to lead through example, how to change hearts through mercy, how to be both human and Chromath simultaneously. Does this mean you're leaving?" Jiho asked, feeling a pang of loss. "Not permanently," Davik assured him. "I will travel, yes. My trade requires it. But I will return often. You are my clan brother, Jiho. That bond does not break with distance, and you are no longer the frightened boy I found in a corridor. You have become someone your mother would be proud to know." Jiho touched his staff, feeling the engraving of his mother's name 5 years past like chapters in a story that Jiho never imagined he would write. The blind orphan who once cowered in corridors had grown into a young man of 17, standing in the main concourse of Station Meridian 7 before a crowd of thousands. His staff, still gleaming with the unmistakable sheen of Chromath war steel, was planted firmly beside him. The medallion at his chest caught the artificial lights, its presence now recognized by everyone on the station. Today was special. Today they dedicated a memorial. The statue stood 3 meters tall, crafted by the finest sculptors from 5 different species working in collaboration. It depicted Hyejin in her final moment, body positioned between an unseen threat and those she protected, arms outstretched, face set with determination. Beneath it, engraved in every major galactic language, were the words "Guardian of all peoples." Ambassador Korath himself had come from the Chromath homeworld to attend the ceremony. The elderly statesman stood near the statue, his armored plates showing the weathering of age, but his presence still commanding respect. Jiho had met him twice before during these 5 years, but seeing him here in the place where Hyejin had died carried special weight. The crowd was impossibly diverse. Humans who had known Hyejin or simply wanted to honor her, Chromaths who had traveled across the galaxy to pay respects to the woman who changed their civilization, station residents of dozens of species who had been touched by Jiho's work over the years. Even Krixath was there, standing near the front with the other young people who had become Jiho's friends and helpers. Jiho was scheduled to speak. The thought terrified him more than facing down the bullies had 5 years ago. Public speaking to thousands, knowing his words would be recorded and shared across the galaxy, understanding that he represented not just his mother but the entire idea of what humans could be. It was almost too much pressure. Davik stood beside him, a steady presence as always. The Chromath warrior had indeed returned often over the years, sometimes staying for months, sometimes just days, but always there when Jiho needed him most. "Breathe," Davik said quietly. "Your mother once stood alone against a fusion rifle. You stand before friends speaking truth. You have faced harder challenges." The station administrator, a Thorian named Velkos, who had watched Jiho's transformation with interest, stepped to the speaking platform. His amplified voice rolled across the concourse. 5 years ago, Hyejin Park gave her life to save another. That sacrifice rippled outward, changing the course of galactic politics and inspiring a generation. Today we honor not just her death, but her life and the legacy she left behind. To speak about that legacy, I present her son, Jiho Park, guardian in training of Station Meridian 7. Jiho walked forward, using his staff to navigate the steps to the platform. He could sense the crowd through the vibrations, thousands of heartbeats creating a rhythm that resonated through the floor. He planted his staff and stood still for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I was 7 when my mother died," Jiho began, his voice amplified across the concourse. "I remember very little about her. Her singing voice, the way she smelled like flowers, how safe I felt when she held me. For years, that was all I had. Fragments of memory and a wooden staff with her name carved into it." He paused, letting the words settle. The crowd was absolutely silent. 5 years ago, bullies broke that staff. They left me alone in a corridor. blind and helpless, thinking I had lost the last piece of my mother. I thought my story was over. But stories do not end in darkness. They transform there. Jiho gestured toward Davik with his free hand. A Chromath warrior found me. He told me stories about my mother that I had never heard. He taught me that she was not just someone who died, but someone who changed the galaxy through how she lived and how she chose to die. He gave me this staff, made of Chromath war steel, something never given to outsiders, and he spoke 3 words that changed everything. You are Chromath. A murmur ran through the crowd. This part of the story was known, but hearing Jiho tell it directly carried emotional weight. But I am not just Chromath, Jiho continued. I am human. I carry both heritages, both perspectives, both strengths, and in these 5 years I have learned that my mother's real gift was not her death. It was what her death represented. The idea that true strength is not about power or weapons or physical ability. It is about choice. He turned slightly toward the statue, his blind eyes not seeing it but his senses feeling its presence through the staff's vibrations. My mother chose to stand between danger and innocence. She chose duty over survival. She chose protection over preservation. Those choices were not unique to her. They are part of what makes humans extraordinary. We choose mercy when vengeance would be easier. We choose hope when despair would be simpler. We choose love when hate would be louder. Jiho's voice grew stronger, more confident. Every day on this station, ordinary people make extraordinary choices. The janitor who fixes life support systems is choosing to protect lives. The teacher who shapes young minds is choosing to build the future. The parent who sacrifices everything for their child is choosing love over comfort. These are not headline news. These are not military victories. But they are the foundation of everything good in this galaxy. He could feel the crowd leaning forward, drawn into his words. Even the Chromaths, who valued martial prowess above most things, listened with complete attention. My mother was extraordinary, yes. But she was also simply human. And that is the most extraordinary thing of all. Because being human means having the capacity to care about strangers, to sacrifice for ideals, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We are not the strongest species. We are not the longest lived or the most technologically advanced. But we have something that makes other species uncomfortable. We fight for love, not glory. Ambassador Korath stepped forward slightly, his massive frame radiating approval. Jiho sensed the movement and nodded respectfully in his direction. After the ceremony today, Ambassador Korath will present me with an offer. He wants me to become the first official guardian of the Galactic Coalition, a new position inspired by my mother's sacrifice. Guardians would be protectors of the innocent, defenders of those who cannot defend themselves, answerable only to conscience and honor. The crowd erupted in whispers. This was news even to most attendees. I will accept, Jiho said clearly, but with conditions. I will not be the only guardian. I will train others, human and alien alike, in the principles my mother embodied. I will create an order of protectors who measure strength not in weapons, but in wisdom, not in conquests, but in compassion. He planted his staff more firmly, its tap echoing through the amplification system. And I promise you this. Every guardian will carry a staff made of Chromath war steel, crafted by the same warriors who once thought mercy was weakness. Every guardian will wear a medallion marking them as part of something greater than themselves. Every guardian will learn that true power is knowing when not to use force, when to speak instead of strike, when to protect instead of punish. Jiho turned to face the full crowd, his blind eyes sweeping across them, even though he could not see their faces, but he could feel their attention, their hope, their willingness to believe in something better. Within 10 years, there will be guardians on every major station and world. They will be the bridge between species, the voice for the voiceless, the shield for the vulnerable. They will carry my mother's legacy forward, proving that one person's choice to stand against darkness can light fires across the galaxy. The crowd began to applaud, but Jiho held up his hand for silence. He was not finished. But here is the most important part of what I have learned. You do not need a special staff to be a guardian. You do not need Chromath training or political appointment or official recognition. Every person who chooses kindness over cruelty, every person who helps instead of hurts, every person who stands up for those who cannot stand for themselves, you are all guardians. You all carry my mother's legacy. You all prove that humans and those who embrace human values are the most powerful force in the universe." Now he let the applause come. It started as a wave and built to thunder, echoing through the concourse with enough force that Jiho felt it vibrating through his staff. Tears streamed down his face, but they were good tears this time. Pride, grief, hope, and purpose all mixed together. Ambassador Korath approached the platform, moving with the careful dignity of age and wisdom. He placed one massive hand on Jiho's shoulder, a gesture he had once made to Hyejin in gratitude after she saved his life. "The Galactic Coalition officially recognizes the Guardian Order," Korath announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Jiho Park is appointed as first Guardian, with full authority to recruit, train, and deploy Guardians across all Coalition territories. Their mandate is simple: protect those who cannot protect themselves. Their loyalty is to conscience and honor above politics or profit." The crowd's applause redoubled. Jiho felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. A dream that started with a broken staff and 3 words had become a galactic institution. The ceremony continued with speeches from others, but Jiho stepped back, needing space to process everything.